here in this example, there is something different because we have a violin, but we have the tiple playing the rhythm as we was playing before. So we're going to begin going from what is the guitar playing in the ensemble and how we can change it. So the basic, like, all these rhythms, these styles from this region come from dances. And there are, as I said before, there are some elements that they have in common. Is the rhythm what defines the difference between each one of the styles in this region, between the pasillo and guabina? Because sometimes in the harmony, sometimes in the melody, sometimes in the structure, you will find some elements that are very common. But it's the rhythm, and as the T plays the instrument that displays that rhythm, that's why the tiple is so important in the music, and that's why the tiple is so representative. So this is really the most important instrument in this kind of ensembles. Sometimes you can find some variations in the ensembles. Sometimes you can find piano, acoustic bass, woodwinds like flute, clarinet. There are like the instruments that are most used in the ensemble, but everything comes from the traditional trio, the bandola, the tiple, and the guitar. There is sometimes also another ensemble called estudiantina that is like a small orchestra of string instruments with more than 2 bandolas, maybe 3 tiples, acoustic guitar, bass, and maybe a violin, or a woodwind, a clarinet, or a flute. So the rhythm, as you can see in the screen, is the basic rhythm pattern of the pasillo, the most basic rhythm of this style. It seems very basic, but from this rhythm, from the variation that you can do with this, from with each instrument can do from this, is what you can build something interesting. But if you will play this, like, it will be like, the example that I'm going to do will be like the most basic way of playing the pasillo, like will be like the first lesson pasillo 101 style, will be like that. This is the most basic way. It's like I said before, like pasillo 101 style. There's something important here. Always, most of the time, at the end of each section, you see, listen that they play this at the end. There is always like a cue in the ending, as this rhythm that is dotted quarter note, dotted quarter, 8 note, and a quarter note. It's always played at the end of each section, especially the most traditional tunes. When the traditional composers compose a tune, always at the end of this section they write that cue at the end of each section. Maybe the new composer from the 80s, 90s, and right now, sometimes you can change that. But you listen to any composition from the 70s and 60s, 50s, 40s, 30s, you always will listen to that. There are more variations in the guitar. So because the guitar also plays the bass lines, he plays some basic bass lines and gives harmonic support. So what I'm going to do is play the tune El Pereirano. I'm going to show you some examples with Dario playing Dario, our player. Some examples playing just the first 16 measures of the tune, showing some variations of the rhythm, going from something very simple and then trying to changing some things. Another variation that you can do that is keeping close into the traditional way and keeping simpler the comping is playing a bass line. Sometimes you can play 2 8 notes at the beginning, or you can combine with the first one. So we are going to play the first 16 measures of the Pereirano. I'm going to show you playing in a simpler and traditional way. same rhythm, like everyone playing. If the bass play the same bass that I'm playing, if the piano is playing the same that I'm playing, will be very boring because it will be like everything, like everyone doing the same. So what we try to do is try to make some rhythm variations, try to play with different voices, and try to play the chords in a different way. There are some variations that you can play even in the guitar or even in the piano. Some of them are in the screen, so you could play double quarter notes. Another one will be 8-note rest, 8-note, 8-note rest, 8-note, and a quarter note. Also, you could play half note, a quarter note, double quarter note, and a half note. Also, beyond the rhythm variation, also is you can change something with the voicing that you play and the way that you play the chords. In the traditional way, they are always played. So the first option will be play with different voicings and try to play the chords. Like try to don't play like simultaneously or always everything. Try to do something different. So we are going to play the same part of the tune. I will play with different voicings, breaking the chords, and playing some rhythm variations from the basic rhythm that I showed you before. So what I did there was, the beginning I played the basic rhythm, but I didn't play it simultaneously, I played like very chord. Here I played the second variation that is in the screen, and then combining with some arpeggios. Then try to play with the other quarter notes. So in that way you can like change and play something different from the traditional way. I think always thinking in like everything that you play must depend on the ensemble that you're playing. If you're playing like in any situation, like from any rhythm section instrument, if you're playing solo, trio, duet in a big band. So we here in the ensemble we always thinking in that. So how we combine everything, the rhythms and the harmony between the piano, the bass, and the drums. Talking about the bass lines, it's the guitar who plays the bass lines in the traditional performances. And if sometimes he's combining some simple bass lines with like giving the harmonic support, because as I said before, even he plays the chords, he doesn't sustain the chords. So the guitar is playing like both functions, like the bass and the harmony. If I show you only what will be the bass line that the guitar is playing, will be very simple, like do the half notes, sometimes two 8 notes, do with a half note, or sometimes if he plays too much, the guitar will play 2 8 notes, 8 note rest, 8 note, and a quarter note. But Daniel is going to explain you how he assumes the bass lines in the pasillo, going from the simple way and trying to show you some variations of the rhythm. Okay, so primero sencillo.
Entonces, la idea es, como en la forma tradicional del pasillo, no hay bajo. La idea es abrir ese bajo. Entonces eso le da más libertad a la guitarra para acompañar, y pues hay varias maneras de hacerlo. La primera es muy sencilla, con blanca.
Okay, so what he said was, in the basic performances we don't have the bass, so when we try to do is like he begins to play something simple, and by Daniel playing the bass line, he could give more space to me to play the chords in a different way, also to the piano. So he's going first to begin to play it in a simple way with other half notes. So, ambos. Okay. Okay.
Ok, esa es la manera más simple. Ahora yo puedo empezar a jugar rítmicamente con los patrones que Javier ha estado mostrando.
So it was the simplest way to play it, but what he can do is like begin to like play with the variations that I said before, so he can use those variations to make more interesting bass lines.
Eso lo puedo combinar con el juego entre el cambio de octavas.
He also uses also like changing the octaves that he's playing, so he can add something more melodic interest to the line.
Ok, otra manera bien tradicional, porque no está aquí en los ejemplos que puso Javier, es tocar blanca y negra.
Another rhythmic figure that he can play is play quarter note and a half note.
No, half and quarter.
Ah, excuse me, half note and a quarter note. Excuse me, my bad.
Ok. Y por último, entonces puedo tocar la tercera ejemplo que tiene Javier ahí, que ya lo hace un poco más, hace que se mueva un poco más para que ya en conjunto con todos nosotros funcione mejor.
So he's going to play some nice using the last example, the last one. With that one, he can like make more movement to the line. I will work to like better between the ensembles. I will not be so static like always playing like if it's a D minor or just playing the D. So moving between the chords, the notes of the chord, so he can like give more interest to the line.
Ok, digamos que está básicamente variado de las mejores maneras posibles. Lo que voy a hacer a continuación ya es meterle como sello propio de una manera libre.
Okay, so what he's going to do right now is, sometimes we wrote the chart, everything, but sometimes we don't give some liberty to the player to play his own lines. So right now he will play some of the structure, the melodical rhythm structure that he's playing, but sometimes we leave some space to give liberty, so to move like always taking back the thinking in the basic rhythms and the how melodic he could be, but giving more variations to the rhythm that he's playing. So talking about the rhythm sections, we are going to continue with the drums. You can see that this music doesn't have drum, doesn't have percussion. Sometimes in some ensembles, some people use like some spoons made of wood, like it's very small. Basically, they play like some pattern, like rhythm patterns similar to what the people is doing, but are not very used. So, and the drums begin to be used in this kind of music, like maybe the first recording were made were made in the 90s. Really, some people say that before in the 70s, 80s. Some people do it, but really, like someone that recorded the first recorded from with pasillos and bambucos as reading from the Andes region with drums are from the 90s. So Pedro, he tries to combine and use some of the elements that are in the traditional ensemble and try to incorporate it in the drums. So he's going to explain you how he met and how he used it in the talking about the pasillo.
So what I use is the basic line for the 3/4 rhythm that we just learned. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And combine it with the beats that I'm not playing in between, the spaces. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay? I could stay the whole tune like that, but I try to combine the sounds, playing this same thing backwards. And trying to combine it with different sounds, like hi-hats and snare. Focus would be keeping the 3/4 pulse, but trying to establish contrast with the beats or the notes I'm playing on the up beats. You hear this so-called up beats, so I'm trying to balance that between the main 3/4. So I try to combine giving a little more emphasis on the 3/4, but also trying to emphasize that upbeat, so we can find that 3 against 2 kind of feel. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Sounds and variations, trying to make them a little more open. It's going to sound more like into the jazz, rhythm section type of approach. That's what I do on the drums. I don't stay on the basic. You could stay on the basic beat, the one I showed you first. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. But like Javier said, it's going to sound repetitive and sometimes boring. So I try to make variations on that, both with sticks and with brushes.
So, as you can see, when I show you the first picture of the basic rhythm in the pasillo, that was very simple. At first sight, it seems very simple, but you can create a lot of variation from this rhythm. And as I said before, and as Pedro said, if everyone plays the same, this music will be very boring. And what is challenging in this group, when we try to do, is try to, how with this simple rhythm pattern that is tadam, bidam, tibam, badam, how we can create something interesting. Now, talking about the rhythm section, Franz in the piano, we are going to introduce how he sing the pasillo style in the piano.
Ok, bueno. Entonces, en la música de la región andina colombiana, la mano izquierda del piano tiene gran importancia, porque todo el tiempo está manteniendo el ritmo.
So what she said that in the piano players in the traditional music of the Andes region, the left hand is very important because always the left hand is like keeping the rhythm.
De esta manera.
She wants to show you the bass.
Pero entonces pasa exactamente lo mismo que hemos hablado en general. Si yo mantengo la mano izquierda haciendo el bajo todo el tiempo, que es lo que hace normalmente duplicar el bajo.
So if she played what she was doing, like keeping the bass line always in the left hand, will happen what we were saying before, like will be very boring. And especially if we say if we are playing with a guy that is playing the bass line. So like two guys playing the same will be like.
Entonces, teniendo en cuenta eso, hay que abrir un poquito ese patrón de no mantenerlo en el bajo, sino dentro del mismo acorde.
So what she tries to do is try to keep the same structure, but not just in the bass, like try to break that structure in different voices.
Okay. Y armónicamente, la armonía de la música colombiana está construida básicamente en triadas.
And harmonically, talking basically about voicings, the traditional performance they used to play only like in triadas voicings. They don't used to play like with tensions and maybe opera structures.
Exacto. Entonces, lo que hacemos es coger las superestructuras, acordes so-bats, acordes que tengan mucho más tensiones y junto con esos acordes generar un patrón rítmico en ambas manos del acompañamiento.
So what she tries to do is try to combine the voices that are using in the jazz piano practice, like the so whats, voicing by fourths, opera structures, and other kind of voicings, and try to combine that with the rhythm that she's trying to combine between the two hands, and trying to don't play the same basic rhythm structure in the left hand. That could be very boring. Try to keep the rhythm with the left hand, and in the right hand combining la mano derecha, puedes decirlo otra vez, por favor.
Okay. Tenemos el acorde, lo podemos tocar al tiempo, ¿cierto?
So you can play the chord like simultaneously, or.
Pero si hacemos eso lo mismo, suena muy repetitivo con lo que está haciendo la batería y el
So
bajo.
if she plays that, like don't be repetitive. So she doesn't do that. So,
Entonces lo que hacemos es coger esa estructura